Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast episode. This is podcast episode number 9, and we are back in the motherfucking egg chair. We're back in my little spiritual art space area, and I'm just so ready for this episode. Okay. But welcome back to another She Speaks Her Mind podcast episode, and we're just going to get right into it. And before I really start this episode, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who has been supporting with now my podcast being out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I think it made such a big difference with people just finding out about it, and it's a little bit more convenient for the people who just want to listen rather than just watch. If you are here to listen to today's podcast, and maybe this is your first ever podcast episode of hearing my voice and knowing what this podcast is all about, maybe you guys should watch this episode on YouTube, because I do have it also linked on my YouTube with just a video version of my podcast, and you guys can really see the details of what I put into this podcast and just sitting in this huge ass egg chair, because my cover photo says a lot about it, and the details behind it just simply screams out my name. But moving forward with this podcast episode, today we are going to be talking about protecting my peace, and which in this case, protecting our peace and trusting our gut instincts. And by the way, if you guys are asking why I look so put together in this video, is because I got my passport pictures taken. So you already know your girl had to do the most, put a little bit of makeup on, do her hair, and get ready for these photos, because even though that no one's going to be looking at these passport pictures except for the security guard and for the people who work at the airport, I don't care. It's for me. But I think they slayed, and I think this passport is here to stay for 5 or 10 years, and I think I'm okay with that. But anyways, and why I'm making this episode all about protecting our peace and trusting our gut instincts, because I think in today's society, I think it's really important for us as humans. We have to learn how to survive in this world, especially in today's society. So it's not about protecting our loved ones, but this is also about really protecting ourselves and how to be independent in this world. So why should we protect our peace, and why should we trust our gut instincts? The real question here is, why wouldn't we? But to answer that question is, we need to protect our peace, because if we don't, what happens is our energy drains. We set unrealistic expectations for ourselves. Not everything has to make sense for other people. And most importantly, because we do deserve the world, even though you may not think you do, we should never settle. By protecting your peace, you treat people by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. And guys, let yourself have permission to protect your peace. I know it's easier said than done, and you may be the kindest person on this planet to do everything you want for that person, but sometimes all it comes down to is just putting all your energy into what is good and putting energy into what is worth your time. So with this being said, we need to be mindful and be aware of where we're putting our energy into, and especially energy that you are allowing into your life. So I'm going to share with you guys a little story here in a little bit, but with this situation that I had to really navigate what I wanted to do to be able to protect my peace, I had to go through a certain situation where I wasn't allowing that. And I had to lean into consequences that I dealt with and self-realizations I went through with this person because I didn't do the deed of protecting my own peace. And you guys already probably know that in certain situations or with people, you can really pick up bad vibrations with certain people. And this is your body just telling you that this is what's really going on. And sometimes you just neglect that because you don't want to be that person and really trust your gut instinct. So a little bit of water break. So if you guys don't know, I do have an emotional support water bottle, and it is the best thing that I always bring with me every time I record a podcast episode. I actually have my water bottle with me right now, and then also a Starbucks coffee. I'm not a big Starbucks coffee drinker, but ever since I've been getting my breakfast at Starbucks lately, I just happen to buy a Starbucks drink with it. So you can't just go to Starbucks and only get a breakfast wrap, because the part of going to Starbucks is really going there for the Starbucks drink and just making it feel like You're treating yourself with coffee, but you do it all the time. Unfortunately, what I was saying is that your body can definitely pick up bad vibrations, and it's just something that you have to listen to when you feel like neglecting it. But at the end of the day, your instincts were right all along. So never neglect how you feel at that moment, because when you feel that something isn't right in a certain situation or something that isn't good in a person, you just trust it. So another word for gut instincts is trusting your intuition. So that's something that I would probably say more often, because I don't know, ever since I've been into self-development and spirituality, I would just say something like, trust your intuition. Okay, I'm annoying. I'm sorry. Personally, for me, I am a very observant person. I don't like to speak a lot in a group, or at least be the talkative one in a group setting, because I like to observe what people talk about and what their intentions are in a conversation, and almost trying to figure out their red flags and their green flags to see if I would like to reconnect with them in the future, or have them in my life, or just be observant. All right. So we're going to go ahead and talk about my little story time about just something I went through for the past, I would say, 5 or 6 months. And just from here on out, this message is for myself, but Anna, trust your fucking gut instincts. Because at the end of the day, it was something that you should have listened to all along. And now here you are, being exhausted and not setting yourself free from what should have been. Now that I did set myself free from this situation, this so-called friendship, which was a friendship I've never really thought I would have to go through, but here we are. It was just a learning lesson for myself. So I don't want to name any names. I don't want to call people out for this story time, because it's just something that I want to look back to. And when I, maybe listen to this podcast episode, I can be like, this is proof right here that I should have trusted myself all along. It's a daily reminder that people come and go and don't stay in your life forever. And for this situation, I think it was just a good call that I had to cut it off. Let's take it back from the very beginning of this friendship. So taking it back to how we met and how we started talking, it was all through social media. And how she found me, let's call her Sasha. But she found me through TikTok and then messaged someone that I talked to saying like, oh, I've seen that girl on TikTok. Like, how do you know her? And then the girl that I talked to, let's name her Jill. So Jill was like, oh, she's actually a relative of mine. So then Sasha, she ended up following me on Instagram. I saw that she had mutual friends with some of these people. I'm like, oh, she knows these people. So I followed her back, and then I saw a message request. There it begins, that friendship. Then I opened message request, and it says that like she found me through TikTok and she's seen me at the gym. She wants to become friends and just like wants to have a workout partner. And I didn't think anything of it. Okay, guys, I am someone who's open to meeting new people and doing things with new people. But something really felt off after a few hangouts, and I should have listened to my fucking intuition. I was told some things about Sasha, which I should have been a little bit more self-aware. I know I would say 5 or 6 or 6 or 7 months is a long time to realize like you should have cut her off in the first place, but I wanted to stick around because within those months of, being her friend, I hung out with her maybe 4 or 5 times. So like nothing to the max of we're best friends or she's a really close person in my life, but I wanted to stick around. So why am I talking about this Sasha girl? I just think it's funny now because, everything ended now. It's something that I just want to look back to because then it's something that I can also bring with me in the future of just learning these lessons and what not to do again. Me being the observant person I just ended up observing a little too much, and maybe I was invested a little too much of what was going on. But ever since like I started noticing these red flags, I'm like, girl, what's going on? I feel a little violated. I feel a little weirded out. But when we hung out for the first time, we had a workout session together, and she's so nice. I'm not gonna lie, she's a really nice person, and Sasha just did the most. Okay. So when we worked out for the first time, I noticed something a little off. Like every time I put my hair back up, she ended up putting her hair in a ponytail. I was just playing around. I'm like, I'm just gonna see if I put my hair up again. She would do the same thing. She would do it. And that had happened about 7 times, okay? I put my hair up, she put her hair up. I put my hair down, she put her hair down. And that was the whole time during our workout session together. And so I was still being nice about it because I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. I don't want to feel exhausted from this friendship that we're just literally starting, but body language and everything. Once I opened up to her a little bit with like what I did for work and me just always taking videos, I encouraged her to start making videos of herself because she wanted to do that. So I'm like, girl, go do it. Like, be that person who posts on social media, because everyone is scared to post of what they really want to post on social media because of judgment and fear and, you know, what other people would think. You know, I gave her words of encouragement. This is something you want to do. Go for it. Do social media and, you know, post for fun if you want. So she did the thing and I was happy for her. But then I started noticing some things. I'm like, she has the same editing style as me. That's fine. She's just getting inspiration. And don't get me wrong. I love when people get inspired by what I do and, you know, they switch things up to make it their own version. But when you copy someone and, you know, it's not a form of flattery. It's not a form of being inspired anymore. This is almost like a copycat. I started observing everything. And maybe I was a little too harsh because, you know, someone else could be doing this that I did not know. And someone also asked me, they're like, maybe you're getting irritated because you're noticing. And, you know, what if other people are doing the same thing you're doing and you just don't notice? So you don't really have that energy to do something about it. And then I thought, okay, if you're putting into that perspective, it really made me open up different scenarios of what could have been. But then as I kept observing as the weeks went by, it was literally the same thing. And it was just draining my energy of Sasha copying and pasting everything I did. And it was too much for me, especially the editing style. Like maybe she wanted to go out of her way and figure out like what editing style works for her. And she just wanted to see maybe this is what I like. But every time I tried to change my editing style because I'm like, oh, she's like copying the same thing I'm doing, I'm going to do something a little bit different and give it a little bit of a twist so then it's not like I'm copying her now. And then so I ended up switching my editing style and next thing you know, she did the same thing. So I'm like, okay, this is fucking weird. Let me edit something differently this time and different angles. Oh, look at that. The next day, she posts the same exact thing. It's just annoying. Me as a creative and someone on social media, it just takes away your uniqueness and your creativity of who you are as a person because it makes you feel like you are less than them. And it makes you feel like you've put so much work into doing what you love when there's someone out there that's replicating everything you do. And one thing was so fucking crazy was when I wanted to get a haircut. My hair was past my butt. I was so tired of it. And I was like, I need a little bit of a change. I need a little bit of a switch up. I go and get a haircut. You guys already know where this is gonna go. I get a fucking haircut. I probably got 6 inches off. I just felt bald, okay? Someone with really long hair and decides to cut it all off. But guys, no, it's growing. If you guys are watching like the video version of this podcast, I did cut my hair. I didn't tell you guys, or I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did cut my hair. It's slowly growing back. I'm excited for it to get long again because I do miss my long hair. Anyways, going back to the fact that I got a haircut. It just gets so fucking weird. Going back to the haircut of me getting a haircut. She cuts her fucking hair off too. At this point, like we've already like made a good friendship here, okay? I thought she was a good person. And no, she is a really good person. But for me to have someone like that in my life, it would just be exhausting. And then she texts like this group chat I was in with her. She's like, guys, I got a haircut. Like, what do you guys think? Took a picture of it and everything. So I think that she wanted that external validation for herself, knowing that she got that haircut to let me know that we're the same person. Okay. So editing style, I had to change everything. But then I really thought about it. Like, I'm not going to change who I am as a person. I'm not going to change like my editing style because that is something that is true to who I am. And people just know how my editing works. Anytime that I like posted a picture of something that I was interested in, or something that I did, she would end up posting something in that interest after me. Okay, so like I posted a picture of myself in the mountains and just reminiscing to go back. 10 minutes later, she posts a story of missing the mountains and she's just ready to go skiing and snowboarding with her girls. And I'm like, holy fuck, like this girl is actually oblivious to what she's posting and not knowing what she's actually doing. I have no idea, guys. This is just me assuming things. At this point of telling you guys everything, it just got so fucking weird. So this is what I'm saying. You guys need to protect your peace and trust your gut instincts. So now that I'm thinking to myself, I don't even think she realizes it because A, she became obsessed with the idea of copying everything I do, and B, it's literally the same reoccurrence that happens is when I post something, I notice she does the same thing right after. So maybe I'm just investing too much of my time on this. I don't know. Maybe you guys give me your thoughts because I just find it very crazy. I find it very odd that, you know, I've encountered a friendship like this. Moral of the story, protect your fucking peace and trust your fucking instincts. It's exhausting to have people in your life that replicate everything you do, and it's just not needed. So this is a really good listen to just trusting your gut instincts. So moving on, there are so many things in my life that are learning lessons that I had to learn to protect my peace. And what I will tell you now is some lessons I've learned that you can hopefully take from, or take it with a grain of salt. You choose. You need to stop pretending to be happy when you're hurting. I'm starting to learn this now because I'm at an age where I observe things differently. And at that time, I was so young. I was just only hurting myself and not learning how to be happy in any given situation. Another lesson I've learned is that I had to stop overthinking about my past and things I couldn't change. Can't change the past and change how people are, but it's what we do now and how we react to certain situations with the universe trying to test us to see if we become a stronger person to who we used to be. So if you guys listen to my podcast episode from the last one, which was moving out of a toxic household, this one goes for what I had to go through when living at home. I had to stop waiting for external validation to boost my confidence. This one hits because I used to have no self-confidence within myself, and cheering myself on with accomplishments I really knew I was excited for to reach, but I still wanted that validation from someone, or in my case, I wanted that validation from my parents, knowing that this is what I did, but it was never enough. Just one more thing to top it off with this whole podcast episode is just I had to stop wasting my time on one-sided relationships. And this always comes down to just friendships, and I think it's okay because in this life, you're gonna go through so many different phases of your life with meeting new people and people coming and going. Some stay for a short amount of time and some stay for years or a lifetime. But why I am putting this lesson here was because I had this friendship that I took all my time and energy for them when they didn't do the same for me. I felt so exhausted on trying to help her because I was at a breaking point where I'm like, is this even worth it for me to really put my all into what she's going through and in this friendship when I'm here suffering mentally? But I think it was just me caring for her so much that I just didn't want her to go through all the tough times that she did on her own, because I wanted to be, you know, her number one, her best friend, of me being that person by her side. But it just got to a point where I didn't see any of that effort coming back to me, and it's not like I expect it. Okay, it's not like I expect anything in return, but all I wanted from her was to show that she cared for me as well, and her putting in the effort to always wanting to be around me, or at least knowing that she appreciates me. Like, my love language is just words of affirmation, if you guys don't know already. But that was something that I never really got, and I had to just sadly let it go, let this friendship go, and move on with people that are gonna put the effort to want to be in my life, not me putting all the effort to be in their life. So I hope this gave you a different perspective on how to really protect your peace, because I feel like if you were to listen to any other podcast, they would just tell you, you know, don't be around negative people. Like, you need to have an example of why you shouldn't be around people that do you no good. And that's why I try to make this podcast out in the open and be more vulnerable, because not everyone is going to do that. Not everyone is going to know that side of you. And that's why I love the community that we have, is because I can talk about anything and everything, and I do not get shamed for it, or the podcast episodes that I do put out with being the black sheep of the family. That's what I thought to myself, like maybe before starting this podcast and having a title like that, I would be embarrassed about. But now that it's out in public and showing it to you guys and you guys listening to it, there are so many people that relate to it. Like, I'm not the only one that goes through these types of things. So for me to read these messages of you guys saying that you're going through the same thing, you're dealing with the same issues, it makes me feel less lonely. But anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this podcast episode. And now that I have everything figured out with having to put this podcast on Spotify, I do have a little comment section that I asked you guys, what do you think of this episode? You can literally comment anything that you think of with the podcast episode, and just literally comment anything of what podcast episodes you guys want me to talk about. Literally anything, and I will read them. But for future episodes, it's permanently gonna be on each episode. I appreciate you guys so much. Reading your messages, it tears me up because this is gonna make me tear up. The fuck? Because there's so many of you guys that resonate with me, and seeing you guys proud of me too, it motivates the shit out of me to keep going and do what I do and to have content put out for you guys. You guys are the reason why I want to stay consistent and the reason why I want to keep putting content out for you. But that is all for today. Make sure you guys follow all my social media platforms for my podcast, and we're just going to be staying up to date with everything and just getting you guys in the loop with what's going on. Thank you guys for listening or watching, and I will see you guys next week.